Hello everyone and welcome to the cockpit. If you're just joining us, this is part 2 of a 3-part video series on the A2A Piper Cherokee 180. Currently we are level at 3,500 feet southbound toward the Cape Charles VOR on our way to Kill Devil Hills. Among other things, we're discussing FS MaNiA's new simulator, FSX Steam Edition. This is our first flight using FSX Steam, so welcome aboard, sit back, relax, enjoy the flight, buckle up. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying FSX Steam Edition is the final solution or that it's the perfect flight simulation platform forever and ever, amen. It's still built on 32-bit architecture as is prepared. But for now, FSX Steam Edition is a good transitional platform to move away from old FSX box version, and for me at least, it's with the least amount of money and time, and I don't have to start over learning all the intricacies of a brand new simulator. So I'm so far very pleased, and let's do this. Sync up our heading right here, about 210, and we'll go into the heading mode and stay there and track the rest of the way into the station until we see this flag go to the from position, which will be pointing behind us, and may go to the right just a little bit. And while we're getting there, we're about 2 miles away. Let's bring up our chart and see. So outbound to the station, we're going to be flying the 175-degree radial, which will bring us clear of the restricted area we talked about earlier down to this point right here, and it's 52 nautical miles. So we'll be flying over the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which we're going to talk about, and flying right by Norfolk there. Good stuff. So let's see, we're still flying to the station, but we should be getting just about over the top of it, and we ought to see this needle just go berserk here. And there it just went to off. So let's go ahead and make our turn about 20 degrees to the left, so we're over the station. And actually, if you're making much of a turn, you want to lead it a little bit, but we're not turning that far. And we'll adjust this to the CDI with the OBS to Omni Barrel Selector. We'll try to tell you all the right to 175, and then we can watch it come in here. We want to go to the from, and we'll see it come in there, and we'll keep our turn until we get it centered back up, or we'll keep this heading until we get it centered back up. So the wind should blow us over there on it. I haven't seen the Bay Bridge, but I think it's down here a little further, just off in the distance. So a couple more things while we're getting back on, and turn us just a little bit more. I didn't turn this at all, did I? What happened? Let's see, south. We're in, oh, I see what it is. We're in the low track mode. We need to be in the heading mode. My bad. So let's fix that. There we go. Now 183, we still need to go a little bit further over, and we're picking up something down here, but it's not anything I've got tuned in. This is the one that we're navigating with. And it's hard to fly a plane when you're not really paying close attention. So it's 179, we're looking for 175, and then we'll go back in the track mode and we'll have that dealt with. So we'll just keep an eye on that needle, watching it center up there. And it is sort of important that we use the 175 radial away from the station so that we will be the correct distance away from the restricted area over here where Norfolk is. And there's 176, so we're just about to get there. And we can just go ahead and, there we are. And we'll just go ahead and put that in. The low, yep, we're there. Okay, so now we're tracking on that radial, and we should be able to for the next 45 miles. So good stuff. There's the Bay Bridge coming into sight. I'll tell you something about that here. I have a few little facts about it, but one of the things I did want to just get to the sort of the end of this little part about Dovetail and FSX Steam. Dovetail did make a lot of improvements to good old FSX, and most notably, one of my favorites is that there is no need to do endless tweaking of the FSX config file with FSX Steam. The only tweak that I made is affinity mask equals 64, and that one, as I understand it, forces the sim to take advantage of the multi-core processors. And we should be looking at some of our scenery as we're going here and talking. It's really pretty watching the water across the sun across the water, and we're looking at Orbx down below. So yeah, it takes advantage of multi-core processors, and right now I'm getting frame rates up in the 70 to 90 frames per second range, and I've got my sliders pretty much all maxed out. There's a little airport right there. There's a couple of private strips right there and there, and a few private strips down here. So anyway, with FSX box version, I'd be lucky to hit 30 frames a second. If I had the sliders dialed back, I couldn't hardly hit 30 frames a second, especially if there was any heavy weather or complex scenery. So definitely running much better, and FSX can Steam Edition can coexist with FSX boxed version, so you don't have to uninstall FSX boxed if you don't want to. I still have mine installed, but probably not for long. I didn't know for sure, and so I left it on there as sort of a safety net, but yeah, I haven't really flown it since I got Steam on here, so I think we can get rid of it. And you know, another good thing is that a lot of the FSX add-ons that I already had and paid for, they play nice with Steam version, most notably Orbx, which saves a lot of money for me because most of the scenery I run is Orbx. So yeah, all I had to do was just install it using FTX Central, and easy as pie. So, and speaking of installing, FSX box version, when you install that with SP1 and then SP2, and you have to do all kind of special little things to get it installed correctly, it's pretty time consuming, and then you've got to do all the tweaking to get it to perform to an acceptable level. I know I spent days and days and days just researching and tweaking and testing FSX to get as much out of it as I possibly could. You don't have to do that with FSX Steam. You just get it on there. Now, it doesn't right out the box fly, or right out off the download, it doesn't fly perfectly, but it flies pretty dang good. And then when you put all the add-ons on it, like the scenery and aircraft and weather engine, all that, it smooths right up and flies great. So yeah, that's that. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about the well, one thing I needed to mention is I identified this piece of land we just flew over in the TBM video as the southern tip of Maryland, and I was actually incorrect, and it is not the southern tip of Maryland. And I'll say aeronautical charts aren't the best source of information for minor details like names of states, but thanks to Jim Bakunis, I think it's how it's pronounced, for letting me know that a good portion of the eastern shore is the Virginia part of the Delmarva Peninsula, and the southern tip of Maryland is actually further north. Thanks, Jim, for setting me straight, and apologies to Virginia for trying to give part of their state away. So the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel is 23 miles long. It's fixed link, crosses the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay in the U.S. state of Virginia. It connects Northampton County on the Delmarva Peninsula with Virginia Beach. And it is part of the, Virginia Beach is part of the Hampton Roads metropolitan area. The bridge tunnel was opened in 1964. It remains one of only 10 bridge tunnel systems in the world, 3 of which are in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area. Since it opened in 64. The tunnel's been crossed by over 100 million vehicles. It saves motorists something like 95 miles in an hour and a half on the trip between Virginia Beach and Norfolk area. The trips between the Virginia Beach, Norfolk area and points north and east of the the Delaware Valley. Yeah, I'm butchering that. So it's a time saver versus going I-95 north, and it saves. There is a toll to go across it. As of the writing of this information, it was $15. I'm not sure if it's still that or not, but part of that's offset by savings of tolls in Maryland and Delaware on I-95. So now one thing about it is strong winds do have a tendency to blow over vehicles. And when the winds get in excess of 40 miles per hour, they start limiting which kind of vehicles can go across there. And when the winds get up to 70 miles an hour, which is hurricane force, or during other inclement weather such as snow or ice, they close the bridge. And just recently in February, I saw where a tractor trailer was blown off the bridge, and it was during some heavy winds. And even though the truck driver was seen alive and standing on the top of the floating truck's roof, he was found in the water and unresponsive by the time a U.S. Navy helicopter reached him, and sadly the truck driver died on the way to a hospital in Norfolk. So a total of 12 people have driven off the bridge since it opened, and 10 of those people were killed in the process. So it is mandatory for the bridge to be checked and serviced every 5 years, and since it takes 5 years to service, then the work never stops. And one more thing is Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel has its own police department. Fun fact. So let's see how we're doing here. Lest we be led astray, we're 20 miles out now from Cape Charles, and we've got another 30 to go. So we're doing fine on time. Still have a lot of things to cover. Still want to talk some more about the FSX Steam Edition. But before I do, I want to tell you a little bit about Norfolk over here that we're getting ready, we're flying past. You saw it on the chart. And what can I tell you about Norfolk? Let's see, it's in 2015, so about a couple years ago, the population was approaching 250,000 people, and that makes it the second most populous city in Virginia behind neighboring Virginia Beach. It is located at the core of the Hampton Roads metropolitan area, and it's named for the large natural harbor of the same name located at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. The city has a long history of strategic military and transportation. It has a long history as a strategic military and transportation point. And the largest Navy base in the world, Naval Station Norfolk, is located in Norfolk, along with one of NATO's 2 strategic command headquarters. The #1 employer in the Norfolk area is the U.S. Department of Defense. So this is an oil rig out here. I thought when I first saw it, I thought it might be a ship. I zoomed in on it, which you can do, and lo and behold, it's an oil rig. Didn't know there was an oil rig out there. And I'm not sure if that's accurate. Somebody check that out and let me know. I'm kind of curious. So yeah, Norfolk, nice little military area. And speaking of Norfolk, there's a gentleman by the name of Hyman George Rickover. He was born in 1900, and he was a United States Navy admiral. He directed the original development of naval nuclear propulsion and controlled its operations for 3 decades as director of naval reactors. Admiral Rickover is known as the father of the nuclear navy. His profound effects on the Navy and its most powerful warships were of such scope that he may well go down in history as one of the Navy's most important officers. In 1982, he was promoted to a four-star admiral after 51 years of commissioned service. Subsequently, he later became the longest serving naval officer in U.S. history with 63 years of active duty service. He's the only person who has ever been awarded 2 congressional gold medals. Pretty impressive. And you may be asking yourself, well, why is he telling us all this about Admiral Rickover? Well, because the USS Hyman-G Rickover, SSN-709, is a Los Angeles class submarine. It was the first ship of the U.S. Navy to be named for Admiral Hyman-G Rickover, and the only Los Angeles class submarine not named after a United States city or town. The Rickover was commissioned in 1984 and decommissioned in 2006. Fortunately for this guy, thanks to a special PR program, FS MaNiA was able to secure a berth on the Rickover for a 3-day cruise out of Norfolk to destinations unknown. The Rickover, classified as a fast attack sub, has a 5,748-ton displacement. She is 362 feet long with a 33-foot beam and a draft of 32 feet. 33-foot beam and a draft of 32 feet. Her primary propulsion is an S6G nuclear reactor, and with a submerged top speed of she is able to dive to a depth of This is classified information, and the Navy was pretty serious about keeping it that way. The last thing FS MaNiA needs is to face charges for espionage. Wouldn't do it. Wouldn't be prudent, not gonna do it. The Rickover has a complement of 12 officers, 98 sailors, and 1 old geezer. Yeah, fun stuff there. All right, we're doing pretty good here. We're out 32 miles at 3,000. What the hell? How did that happen? Good Lord, have mercy. Altitude hold. Altitude hold. That's what happens when you're not paying attention. Oh, for the love. We got to get that back. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with 3,000. It's a good kind of local cruising around altitude, but we're out here offshore. We don't want to be too low, so we're going to get our, I guess I hit that somewhere along the line, and the altitude crept right down, and I am not paying attention. Bad things happen in airplanes when you're not paying attention. So there's our 3,500 coming back. And this switch right here is for if you've got the GPS loaded up, then you can go from nav to GPS source, but we don't have the GPS loaded up because we're flying with the VOR. And one thing we can do is if we want to know, if we didn't have this DME, which is really comes in handy, and we want to know where we are, we can bring up our chart and we can say, hey, here's Norfolk VOR and it's 116.9. Let's find out where we are there. So 116.9, there's Norfolk. Bring it over here. Technically we should identify it, but I'm just demonstrating. If we want to know what radial we're on, then let's center that needle up. Move the OBS until the CDI is centered, and then we can read that radial. Let's get over there where it is. There it is. And still getting used to some of my settings and things here. So we're on the 120 radial. Then we can go back to the chart and look down here. There's 90, 100. So, you know, right in this area right here. So approaching this warning area, and it is cold as per our flight planning. So we shouldn't be seeing any fighter jets flying by or anything like that. So let me think. Now, where did I get to on the Steam? Give me just a second to find my place. think I talked about the how difficult it was to install FSX, and Steam, on the other hand, is easy and quick to install. It went smooth. It's well supported. If you have problems, the Dovetail and the Steam community are good to work with you on those, although I didn't have any problems, but you can see that there's lots of forums and places that you can go get help. And I took my time and still had the sim up to speed in less than a day. And I'll say, I think I already said the plain vanilla default FSX Steam isn't all that impressive, but the performance was just okay, and of course the default sceneries and aircraft are, well, they're default, but when you add the Orbx and a new weather engine and with improved texture loading and A2A's Cherokee with AccuSim, it's night and day improvement of the sim, both in performance and visual quality. So there's that. And I would say at some point I will most likely be adding P3D to my flight sim toolbox. And of all the simulator platforms I've seen, I consistently see the sharpest graphics from the P3D users. I'm thinking they will probably be releasing a version 4 at some point in the not too distant future, and that's probably when I'll take the P3D leap. And as far as X-Plane goes, I've had the X-Plane 10 64-bit for a good while now. And what I haven't had, though, is the time to invest in learning the sim and dialing in all the necessary tweaks and add-ons and to bring it up to what I consider broadcast quality. Altitude's good, needle's good, so y'all can rag me about losing 500 feet while I was jabbering. I'm okay with it. So, yeah, the thing with X-Plane is I never had really the time to learn the simulator the way I needed to learn it, and the other thing is I couldn't get the camera system going good, and so I've not made any videos with it and haven't even really flown it that much, but I am seeing that X-Plane 11 has some really great improvements, and one of the great improvements is the new camera system that comes with it, and or that you can add on. I'm not sure if it comes or you can add it on, but it's 64-bit architecture, which means you've got more virtual memory available, and so I can see that X-Plane 64-bit could leave Steam and P3D in the dust unless Steam and P3D come up with a new platform sometime in the not too distant future that has 64-bit architecture. So word on the cyber street is P3D and Steam are both working on major new developments, so I guess we'll wait and see and stay tuned. And with that, we're not too far away from where we need to make our turn toward Kitty Hawk, so I'm going to break the video right there. Hope that one's not too long. Hope it didn't get too long and I didn't get too wordy. And but I am going to, in the next part, give you a few more details about the software that I'm running, and also a few more fun facts about our destination and about some of my real-world experience flying Cherokees. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for being with me, and until then, from FS MaNiA, so long.